Hi everyone, it's Una here, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how you can transform your life in just 6 months. And I will be talking about how you can actually realistically do this because I don't know about you, but I used to watch a lot of these videos which were about transforming your life in 6 months, transform your life in 30 days, change your body in 30 days. And you go into the video and it's like, I did this, and this, and it's like a bunch of things. And it's just, unless you don't have a job or any other responsibilities, it's not really possible to actually achieve that. So no dig against those people, good for you. But I thought I would make something a little bit realistic for those of us who might be a bit more busy, who might be a bit more time poor, and who want to change their lives, but also want to make it possible for them to actually, let's just say, do it. So that's kind of what we'll be covering in today's video. So before we jump into the content though, if you haven't already, I would really appreciate it if you like the video and subscribe to my channel in order for you to be notified of any future videos. And that also helps the algorithm boost my videos so that more people can get this free content. So without further ado, let's get started. So first of all, what does it mean to actually change your life? So before we kind of go into the actual practical tips that I've kind of compiled for you today, what does it actually mean to transform your life? So actually, you are constantly changing. So you are not the person that you were 10 years ago. I'm definitely not the person I was 10 years ago. And so the first thing I want you to kind of start with is with a short reflection. So if you want to gather a pen or a paper or something like that and actually ask yourself the question, um, if you were your 16-year-old self today and if you were your 16-year-old self and you look at who you are today, so this is only works if you're over 16. So if you're 16 years old and you're watching this video, maybe do it when you were 6 years old. But say you're at your age 16 and you're looking at yourself and who you are today. So would you believe that you would have become this person? How would you feel about this person? So for me personally, when I was 16, I never would have believed that I would own 2 businesses, have a successful career, actually have money in my own name and be very close to paying off my debt. I wouldn't have believed you when you said I would be married, I would be living in Ireland, because I always thought I want to go live somewhere far, far away from my family and get away from everyone. So I am in a very different place than where I thought I would be when I was 16. So I thought I would be, working on the stage or something like that. So I'm in a completely different place. So ask yourself this question. Where did I think I would be when I was 16 and where am I now? So that's the first thing. But here are some very practical tips to actually allow you to transform your life because it actually doesn't take too much to transform your life. And if you haven't already read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, James Clear talks about this kind of basically premise that by making small changes on a day-to-day basis, you can actually create an exponential amount of transformation in your life. So he uses the example of an airplane, right? So if you have an airplane on the runway, right? So if you're going one way and you take off, you might end up in London. But if you just shift that plane a little bit slightly with the difference, you might end up in Paris. So even though that's only maybe a couple of degrees difference on the runway, you're actually ending up in completely different destinations. So it's the same principle when it comes to actually making changes in your life. So if you can actually just make a small change in your life today, and then make that same small change in your life tomorrow, and then that same small change in your life the next day, then that can create a monumental amount of difference in your life, and you can kind of see that. So 6 months is half a year. So why do I say change your life in 6 months and not change your life in 30 days? Because I don't believe it's possible to completely transform your life in 30 days. You might experience a big transformation within 30 days, but actually the case might be that you've actually spent a seriously long amount of time working up to that. So I see that a lot with my clients who have this very much results-oriented mindset where they're basically seeing only their results as progress. So maybe they see getting the degree as progress or getting that promotion or seeing that pay raise, whereas they might have actually been working towards that for years. And it's the same thing with physical changes in your body. So something like changing your nutrition, you're not going to see a result. You might see a small change within a month, but you'll see that sustained changes and sustained results with after 3 months and then at best after 6 months. So this is another reason why when I work with people, I actually take on people for 6 to 9 months. And then with my program, Create Your Space, it's a 12-week program, but I provide support for 6 months because I think it actually takes this amount of time to really create that sustained amount of change in your life. So we're going to get into some tips, but before we jump into that, I just want to kind of leave a little disclaimer here, is that these changes have to work for you personally, and I encourage you throughout this process to actually ask yourself this question. Does this resonate with me? Does this fit with my lifestyle? And will this work for me? And the most important question is this something that I actually want? Because there's no point making changes in your life and adopting all these habits that you don't actually want to do. And that was something that I found that's really wrong with these how to change your life in 30 days, how to eat like me and all of this, is that you have to actually check that it's something that works for you and it's something that you actually want and not something that you think you should want, or because you're finding yourself comparing yourself to other people, if that makes sense. Okay, so first of all, what is the first thing that you can do to change your life in 6 months? So this is a very basic one, but drink water. So if you're someone who always forgets to drink water, maybe you're someone who doesn't even drink water. So I've had clients who they only drink Coke or they only drink coffee or tea. So drink water. Your body is over 70% water, 70% liquid. It requires regular liquid to survive. Actually, our body cannot survive more than 2 days without water, but it can survive over 2 weeks without food. Okay, so make sure that you are hydrating regularly. So now some drink water regularly tips. So first of all, the kind of general, let's say, advice with consuming water is that you do it 8 glasses a day or 2 liters. This might be 2 to 3 liters depending on your height and your weight and things like that. But if you aim between 2 and 3 liters, you're doing well. If you're only drinking 1 glass of water per day, you're not drinking enough water. It doesn't matter how small you are. Okay, so a couple of pro tips to help you remember to drink water regularly. So something that I literally do myself is I always have, I'll just show you here. I always have a massive bottle of water within my line of sight. So whenever I see the bottle and then I go, oh, I haven't drunk any water in a while, let me just take a sip of water. So that's a really simple way to remember. Another thing is quite literally setting reminders on your phone. So if you're someone who forgets to do things, just set a reminder in your calendar to say, okay, 11 a.m. every day, drink water. 12 a.m. every day, drink water. I know it sounds a little bit silly, but if you're a busy high achiever like myself, it can be really easy to just forget the most basic things and actually forget to make time for them because we fill up our schedule with all kinds of things. So drinking water consistently can really make huge transformation in your life. So I want to share a little story here, which is I had a client a couple of years ago, and let's call her Jay. And Jay essentially was having all kinds of problems with her digestion. She was having chronic pains in her stomach, headaches. She was always feeling really frustrated. She was starting to be snappy at people. She was finding that all of the food was just going in and out the other end. She was finding that she was getting diarrhea. She was finding that she was getting loads of allergies to food. And then basically it turned out that she wasn't drinking any water and she was only drinking coffee. And we got her drinking water, and within maybe like less than a month, actually, within a couple of weeks, most of her symptoms had gone. And within 8 weeks, all of her symptoms had gone, because those are symptoms of chronic dehydration, people. If you're finding yourself irritable as hell, if you're finding that your digestive system is getting really sensitive, you're finding yourself inflamed, you're finding that you're actually getting diarrhea, these are symptoms of chronic dehydration. So she was just chronically dehydrated, and when she started drinking water, her life dramatically improved. So that's just an example, I mean, maybe slightly extreme example of how this can actually really help you. Okay, so next thing is meditation. So I harp on about meditation. I talk about it in a lot more depth in my program, Create Your Space, and how you actually do meditation. And you can probably head to some of my other videos where I talk about this on my channel. But essentially meditating every day. So studies suggest that meditating for as little as 5 minutes a day can actually have brain altering effects on your body. So meditation is great for reducing stress, reducing anxiety. But the main thing, and this is what we're trying to focus on and what I really kind of like harp on about as well on my program and to my clients, is it's about preventing the stress and preventing the anxiety rather than managing. Because when you're really anxious in the moment, there's not much you can do other than just support yourself and make sure that you're holding yourself in that moment. But the real transformation comes in actually preventing that anxiety coming up in the first place. So doing things like meditation can really help with that. So like I said earlier, something as little as 5 minutes a day can make a big difference. And I'll kind of throw in a little pro tip here, which again, James Clear talks about in his book, Atomic Habits, which is called habit stacking. And essentially what that is if you have an existing habit, so say for example, it's brushing your teeth in the morning. So what you do is you stack a new habit onto that existing habit. So what you do is you go either before I brush my teeth, I will meditate for 5 minutes, or after I brush my teeth, I will meditate for 5 minutes. So you can do this with literally any habit that you have. So maybe you're someone who gets into bed and spends a while scrolling on TikTok, and we'll get to why that might not be the most beneficial in a minute. But say you get into bed and you look at your phone, right? So you might say, before I look at my phone when I get into bed, I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes. And what that does is it makes it a lot easier to actually create that habit. Rather than creating a whole new routine for yourself, you're just adding something onto your existing routine. So if you can meditate for 5 minutes every day, that can really, really help. But with all of these things that I suggest that you start with one thing at a time, and you start small. Start with something that's actually realistic for you. So don't start with, I'm going to meditate for an hour every day, because I guarantee you might do that for a couple of weeks and then it's not going to work. If you're someone who hasn't meditated before and you all of a sudden want to meditate every day, that's not going to cut it. Also, if you have responsibilities and or children and or a job, you might not have time to just meditate for an hour every day unless you wake up earlier, which might be a challenge. So make sure it's as easy as possible for you to do this. So if you're someone who suddenly is like, I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. and you've normally been waking up at 8 a.m., that's probably not going to happen. So that's kind of a pro tip. And I talk about this a lot more in my program, but how to actually create goals for yourself. So make sure that they're realistic and make sure they actually fit your lifestyle, and not just because you're comparing yourself to what someone else is doing. So I've actually a personal example of this. Is I have a friend, Mel, and she's very, very fit and very, very active. And she actually gets up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym. So that's great, good for her. And that's something that works for her personally. Not a chance that I'm ever going to get up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym. I also did a workout this morning, but it was at 8 a.m. And that's what works for me personally. So it's important that you choose these things that work for you. So that brings me on to my next pro tip, which is practicing gratitude every day. So gratitude, and if you've watched my previous video about gratitude and how to do it, which I will link in the description below, but essentially gratitude practice is an appreciation for what has been, what you have now, and also what you will attract in the future. And a very, very simple thing that you can do, which I recommend that you do every day if you can, is having a gratitude jar. And essentially what that is you just get a random jar, can be an old mayonnaise jar as long as you clean it out, and you put what you're grateful for on a piece of paper and put it in the jar. And you do that. If you can do it every day, you can add that to a habit stack. Maybe it's when I come home from work, or if you're working from home, when I finish work, I'm going to write down what I'm grateful for today and put it in my jar. And if you can do that every day, what that does is if there's a day where you feel like utter crap, you can actually take that note out of the jar and say, oh, there was a time when I didn't feel like crap. Because when we're depressed, when we're feeling down, when we're anxious, when we're in a place where we're at rock bottom, where we think, oh, what can I do? It's so helpful to just actually come out of that. But just saying, just snap out of it, right, isn't enough. So, I mean, I don't know. I always hated when people said that to me. Oh, just stop being so sad. Like, no, you can't just stop being sad. You have to actually find something that interrupts that pattern of sadness and pulls you out of it. So gratitude is a fantastic way of doing that. So just pulling yourself out of that by actually taking out that piece of paper from the jar and saying, oh, I was once grateful for this thing. Oh, maybe I wasn't always feeling like utter crap. So that's the next thing I would recommend. So now the next thing, and I think this thing is also really, really important, is start saving money. So a funny thing that, I mean, not so funny, but a thing that I've struggled with for so many years was saving money. So for so many years, I would max out my credit card every single time. Every time I wanted to book a flight, every time I wanted to go to a festival, every time I wanted to go on a holiday, because I never had money to do any of those things because I didn't have a job for a long time. And also when I did have a job, my job did not match what I wanted to do. So I was always exceeding my income with my expenses. And what the result was that I was always doing things, but then I never seemed to have money to do anything. And so it wasn't until actually recently that I was able to actually start saving. And I realized that I was just spending ridiculous amounts of money on things that I didn't need. And I actually started setting a goal for myself. So my goal was to save 27 euros a day. So sometimes that might have been easy because I could say, okay, instead of going out to dinner, I'm going to save this 27 euro. So by saving 27 euro a day, I was able to save, and also I was also paying debt at the same time. I was able to save / pay off 10,000 euro, because saving 27 euros a day, if you add that up with 365 days, that adds up to 10,000, right? So even though 27 euros doesn't sound like a lot, right, it adds up to a hell of a lot over a year. Okay, so even if you're saving €1 a day, that's 365 euro, or dollars or kroner or whatever you're using, right? If you're saving two, that's already 700 and something. If you save €3 a day, you've already saved more than 1,000 over a year, you know? And 1,000 is a lot of money. You can do a lot with that. Okay, so just saving whatever that means for you, if you can just put aside a little bit of money every day into a little savings account, that can be great. And one thing I would recommend here, and this is not sponsored at all, by the way, I'm going to put a link below, but again, not sponsored. I personally use Revolut Vaults, where you can actually set up these cute little vaults and use images and everything. And then you can even set it so it automatically goes into your savings account. So if you're someone like me who's just very prone to spending, if the money is just automatically going out of my account, it's really easy. And the great thing about vaults is if there is an emergency where you actually need to access that money, you can access it instantly. So you can instantly get it out of your account. So I'll pop the link to Revolut below, but that's just something I would recommend. So finally, what I would recommend for how to transform your life in 6 months, because this is kind of what this video, the theme of this video is about, is getting support and joining a community that supports you. So for so many years, actually still now, I'm someone who's really impacted by the energy that surrounds me, whether that be people, places, things. So if I'm in a place where there's a lot of negativity, I will be in a more negative mindset. And that's something I've really, really found, right? But if I put myself in a place of positivity, then I will grow and flourish. And I've noticed this over time, that I've realized that some people in my life, I've kind of let them leave from my life because they weren't bringing any real value to me. And I don't mean that in a negative way, it's more that just, they were on their own journey and they weren't in a position to be able to support me on my journey. And friendships, it goes two ways. So you need to be there for each other. And there will be times where you need to support people, but it can't only be that, because you need some of that energy to support yourself in order for you to try to thrive and transform your life. So getting support is so, so essential. So this might be a coach, it might be talking to someone like me. If you like talking to me, it might be talking to a friend, or it might be by joining a community. And this brings me on to kind of the final point, which is I wanted to talk to you very briefly about Bien-Être. So Bien-Être is a company that I'm co-founder of, and it's our mission to empower, support, and educate people in how they can actually lead their best life, whatever that means for them. And we actually have a free community, guys. So this is 100% free, no strings attached, where you can join and you can essentially get access to weekly live webinars. You can get access to resources like articles, pre-recorded content, and you also get discounts on our live in-person events, which we're starting up. So actually we've got one coming up in August. So I'm going to pop the link below, but essentially if you're looking for a place where you have a supportive community, where you have a place where people can support you and help you be accountable, I would really recommend that you join the circle because it's free. So what have you got to lose? So that's kind of it for the tips today. I hope this video was helpful. I know it was a little bit longer, but I wanted to provide something that was a bit more complete. So let me know if you like this video, and if you did, please like and please subscribe to my channel, and I hope you have a great